This is Marcus South, a.k.a. Marty the Moth Martinez from Lucha Underground, and you're watching the Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. It's going to be fun.
Welcome to episode 204 of the Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. This is Corey Richmond, joined, as always, by Jason Brooks. Jason, we are back again 2 times in 1 week. It's great to see you again. Wrestlemania is basically 4 days away. Actually, it's on a Saturday this year, so I guess it's 3 days. It doesn't feel like Wrestlemania to me.
Not at all. Nope, not at all.
It's just like I want to be ready, but I just – and we'll talk about it in a couple of minutes, but I was watching that North American title match, and yes, it felt like a UFC heavyweight fight where anytime someone took a hit, it could have been over. But without a crowd, without Morrow, just didn't feel – I mean, it was a fun match, but it just didn't feel like something that I needed to watch. Didn't feel –
None of this is. I feel like you could have not watched any of these shows, and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
You would have missed anything. Or you could have watched an hour highlight package for the last couple of weeks of both AEW and NXT and Raw and SmackDown, and it wouldn't have felt like any different.
And AEW and NXT is the reason why we restarted doing the show, because Wednesday is the funnest night of the week. And you know what? I mean, I'm still hyped to talk about the stuff because I think some interesting stuff happened. But it's WrestleMania week, and it's WrestleMania week.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's what we talked about on Tuesday too. There's no juice. I think a lot of it has to do with what's going on in society too. And we're all worried about everything, and they're saying 200,000 people might die. That's Dr. Fauci's saying. So it's people are just very scared and worried, and put that you're watching a show with nobody there. It's crazy.
Absolutely. And you know what? After a while, we'll all hopefully, be like, this is something that happened in our history. We move on, and next year in Los Angeles, WrestleMania will be the big thing. Maybe SummerSlam we'll have, and we'll be like, remember this, and we'll all go back to normal. But right now, wrestling was a distraction. The first couple of, first week or two, it felt like, all right, this was the cool thing to watch. It was something that was on TV, but now it just doesn't. I don't know, maybe it's just week after week of nobody there. It's starting to just weigh on me.
I think it's weighing on everyone. Look at the ratings. We haven't talked about the ratings for NXT and AEW yet, but they were both really bad. So it's weighing on the audience too.
Yeah. So, but let's start off. Let's talk a little bit about the Wednesday Night Wars, because that is what just happened yesterday. I thought it was.
Yeah, I definitely don't think they're wars at this point. They're small battles.
It's any quote unquote live TV, and that is in quotations at this point, very, very badly, is, I guess, worth talking about. But let's talk off right from the start. What'd you think of the Lance Archer debut? I thought it could have not been done better. I mean, Marco Stunt, most people can't stand him because they think he's a joke because of his size, but if he's ever going to be used for anything, he was used perfectly for this debut. Lance Archer, maybe only 6'8" or 6'9", but he looked like a monster, and he came across looking like a monster, and I thought it was really done well.
Yeah, no, it was great. I think Marco Stunt was the perfect stunt man. He put him over hard. He flipped and flopped for him. He made him look like $1 million. His kind of gimmick as being this crazy lunatic was put over pretty well. And the fact they had no audience there, I think they did a pretty good job of it. Yeah, so it was a good debut for Lance Archer for sure.
And you know what?
I think they did a good enough job of giving the audience a glimpse into who he is a bit without him cutting a promo, without the audience being there. He didn't shoot on the audience because there's no audience to shoot on. So, I thought it was a well-crafted debut by AEW for Archer.
And I thought, Colt Cabana showed his versatility on how much good he could be, especially the fact that he went and didn't take anything super seriously like his character has always been, but he also went and showed the fact that this is who I'm facing next, and I'm here also, talking about the guy, but I'm scouting him because I'm facing him in this TNT Championship bracket, which we'll talk about in a few moments. But I thought the whole entire thing with Jake, with the promo beforehand, I thought was pretty strongly done. I thought everything in that segment really worked well. And for someone who may have never seen Lance Archer or hasn't seen him since his WWE run or 400 years ago when he was in TNA, I think he seems like a fresh and interesting character and someone that feels like, especially with the size difference, he feels like someone we should care about.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they did a nice job with Lance Archer. I think, and we talked about this before, there's not guys his size in wrestling anymore, really. There's a few guys. You have the Keith Lees, the Dijakovic, but you don't really have that many big guys. I think he's probably one of the biggest guys in wrestling at this point. Really that kind of Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero. That's really the size that we mostly see now. So yeah, no, it's especially in AEW because there's not big guys in AEW. So he definitely presents a unique opponent for a lot of guys, and I think he's gonna bring something different to the table.
And you know what? And we spoke about this last week, and we could speak about it for like a half second if you want. But the major difference was, I love the things. I know I liked it more than you did because you thought it was a little too goofy. But him and Brody Lee are about the same height, I think. But Lance Archer came across as a legitimate badass, as this Exalted character is kind of somewhat of a goof a little bit with these promos. I've liked them, but I feel like Lance Archer feels like a guy who will kill you.
Yeah.
The Exalted one, Brody Lee, feels like a huge guy who, maybe, he's playing like a little bit of a cult leader type of character, but you know what? He's also
well, one, Lance Archer's bigger than Luke Harper. He's taller than him. He's bigger than him. But here's the issue. What are these goofs on Vince McMahon? Brody Lee's wearing a suit. He looks like a goofball in the suit with this big old beard and this long hair. And he's obviously doing this Vince McMahon, parodies. It's so goofy.
Oh, you didn't like the second week either?
No. It's just Vince McMahon parodies. I like the idea of him being a crazy cult leader who kind of gets mad at guys. I like that. I just think they could do it better. Here's the thing. You're AEW. You're different. You're original, right? Although they have a lot of ex-WWE guys in there, whatever, they have guys who are original, who are doing something different. The Inner Circle. There's different things going on. Why are you giving me Brody Lee doing goofy Vince McMahon parodies that are not really that good? Like, I don't understand it. I think it's been very flat for me, and I have not enjoyed it. I just think it's been mismanaged and misplaced, and I don't know who thinks this is funny. I think they're giving Brody Lee the kind of room to do his thing. So I think this is more his idea than anything. That's my guess. Mm-hmm. And listen, not everything works, right? In wrestling, you try a lot of different things. Not everything works. But I don't think this is working at all.
Okay.
I don't think it's working at all. I like the idea of it, that he's this crazy cult leader who gets mad and is kind of, but what's it putting over? Like, what's he getting over? Isn't he supposed to be getting the group over? Like, he's not really getting the group over. The vignettes are goofy. Like, what's the point of this? What reaction are you trying to get from the audience?
Well, I would think, and like maybe it's working for me a little more because I find some of this stuff entertaining. But also, I think the idea was at first when we saw the Dark Order, it was taking all the guys who society, kind of forgot about and had left behind. And now that we've actually met the Exalted One, he doesn't take anything from anyone. He wants no bullshit basically, and he's basically won't accept any type of failure. As you know, and he killed those 8 and 9 and all that stuff, and he doesn't accept like imperfections. And I think that's
but he's talking about I understand what you're saying, but there's random guys in masks that if he should be doing this to Evil Uno and Stu Unger.
Should he?
He should be getting on them about stuff, about losing matches.
They haven't lost this year.
What?
I believe they're either have one loss or they're undefeated this year in tag team matches. So they're actually.
But then why'd he come? Then why'd they need him?
Interesting. I mean, that's what we'll have to find out as weeks go along. And I said,
Yeah.
this might work better if we had crowds. I mean, definitely, I think this would have worked better if we had crowds and, people would actually be able to see what works.
I don't even think, to me, it's the crowd thing. I think, and you're right. You're right about that. But I just don't know what the point of this is. What's he there for? To yell at a bunch of ham-and-eggers in masks? Or is he there to make the group a bigger group? So to me, there's really no point of it. He looks like a goofball in a suit, to be honest with you, because we've seen him for years not dressed like that. I think he needs to kind of figure out who he is a little bit and what this character is before, I guess they interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. They interviewed him, the person, not
Right,
the wrestling character. Yeah. And he talked about the fact that he could have taken more time off and waited a little bit before he debuted, but he really wanted to debut, obviously. Maybe he should have taken some more time off and figured out what he wanted this character to be. Now, listen, I am saying this as a big, big Luke Harper fan, a Brody Lee fan. When he won the IC title back in the day against Ziggler, it was a great match, and I was hoping they would give him a push, and they didn't. So I want to see it done well with him. And he's a good talker and he's good in the ring. There's no reason why this can't work. So be yourself in this. Don't be Vince McMahon. Who gives a shit about him? Be yourself.
Well, for this week, we'll agree to disagree, and we'll move on a little bit on the one or two other things in AEW before we move on to NXT and to other things. But quickly, I just want to say, and Jay, I think you'll agree, I think we even brought this up last week, Kenny Omega, this 2020, it showed why he has in the past, I don't know if it was this year or a couple of years ago, won PWI's Wrestler of the Year, and why he's known as the best bout machine. This last couple of weeks and this year as a whole, we have seen the Kenny Omega that got 6-star matches, from the Wrestling Observer, everything. Especially these last couple of weeks, he's been a workhorse, and he's just been amazing in the ring.
Yeah, no, he's been really good. Wrestled some really good matches. The Trent match was good this week, really good. The match with Sammy Guevara was really good last week. So, and he's had to do it, right? He's had to wrestle these long matches because they don't have a lot of guys there. So, yeah, no, I agree. He's fantastic. Not much else to say about him, for sure.
Agreed. And like I said, so let's move on to the last thing, at least on what I would want to talk about in regards to AEW this week. We spoke about for a couple of seconds how much we thought the name was terrible for their new title bout, for the secondary title, the TNT Championship. But let's talk about the actual breakdown quickly of the tournament, which I think is kind of interesting. I think that it's kind of obvious they can go one of two directions with this tournament. It's either good if double or nothing happens in May. It's either be Lance Archer versus Cody Rhodes as the obvious final, or they make a star with either Darby or Sammy Guevara. Would you agree with that, or do you see another?
Yeah, I agree. Do you think the lack of audience plays into it? Like, you know what I mean? Like if you have the audience there, maybe you do one of the younger guys. I don't think Guevara is ready. His mic, I like his character, but I don't think on the mic he still needs work. I feel like I don't think he's ready. But a Darby Allin, I think this would be a great spot for Darby Allin. I really do. But no audience. I just don't know. And Cody would be good with the audience or with no audience. So it's a tough spot. I'm not sure where they go. I would lean toward them giving it. I did say a couple days ago, MJF. Maybe the fact there's no audience changes that. And you just give it to Cody. So it'd be interesting to see where they go. But it's a good tournament, good little tournament with guys who they could do a good job with.
So the opening round brackets, it's Cody and Sean Spears. The winner will face, which I'm guessing will be Cody, will face the winner of Sammy and Darby Allin. And based on how that tag team match ended, which I thought was perfectly done, I'm guessing Darby wins and having Cody versus Darby. If you disagree with any of this, feel free. The other side of the bracket is Dustin Rhodes versus Kip Sabian, which I think could be a fun match, but I think Dustin wins, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah, but hold on. Doesn't Kip Sabian need a win? Has he won a match? I feel like I have more wins in AEW than he does. You know what I mean? Doesn't he need a win? I feel like he needs a win in the worst way. He really needs a win.
Well, and then this is why I'm saying this, because then your other match is Lance Archer versus Colt Cabana, and I think
I know the heel versus heel dynamic might be tricky, but there's no audience, so
But I think you could tell the story of Lance Archer wins his first round match against Colt. Then he goes and basically kills Dustin. So he kills one Rhodes, and then in the finals, he faces, Cody's even has more of a motivation to go and beat Lance Archer. It's very similar to what they did with, the Inner Circle, where they took out Cody. They took out Dustin with, his arm in the limo, which built more heat for the Jericho match. So I could see them it's repeating the same idea again, but that worked very well in their story. And we understand that, Cody is the biggest face in the company. He can't go for the main title. And I would have Lance Archer, get that big win and be your first champion, be that badass heel with your mouthpiece of Jake Roberts. And hopefully by the time, and I don't think it will happen, by the time Double or Nothing happens past then, you could have after that on TV going into your further events in the summer, Lance Archer as your champion with Jake as the mouthpiece, Cody or someone else, a Kenny or someone chasing. And I think you have, months of storyline to go, either the rematch or something else. Yeah, no,
I think, I don't think that's a bad idea. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think that's an interesting idea. It's funny. My favorite for the TV title tournament isn't even in the tournament, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I think he's going for the world title against.
You made that point. You made that point. So what the hell do I know, right? I think I think what you're saying makes a whole lot of sense. I really, really do. I guess the only thing is, don't we need a surprise or two in here?
Hey, you always make Darby
the formula sounds like the formula. It sounds too easy, and AEW has been known to throw things in, and it just sounds like too easy of a formula. But maybe you're right.
Hey, like I said, I think you go either two ways. Like I said, the easy way, or you make Darby a star, and you either have Darby lose in the finals to continue to build his character as the guy just is almost there, and at some point he wins the big match, or you, like I said, you have him win it where at some point in the tournament, either Cody out of frustration cost Archer to get eliminated, setting up the match at the pay-per-view anyway, if it happens, or you just have Archer beat the living hell out of, someone so badly that he gets disqualified, which I know stinks, but he's such a, he did something so bad that Archer's eliminated, so you don't have to have him take a pin, and you could still have someone like Darby win it against either Kip Sabian or Colt Cabana or someone on the other side of the bracket, which kind of doesn't work as much because nobody besides Lance Archer is really that big of a guy on that side of the bracket.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. I think more than likely, all right, it'll come down to Cody against Lance Archer, and then
which will work,
and it'll work. And how will that play out? Usually, in that case, if you want a feud to continue, you have the heel win, and then you have the babyface chase. So we'll see if that's the way they go.
All right. Like I said, good show. Ratings for everything didn't exactly show it because everybody's watching the news or Netflix, I guess, right now.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's actually give the numbers here. So you texted me earlier the numbers. Now, if you want to look up where that was in comparison to last week, you can. AEW did 685,000 viewers this week. NXT did 590,000 viewers. So, and Corey loves texting me the ratings for these shows, which like I said, I do think it's interesting. But 690,000 viewers. They've had upwards of 850,000, 900,000 in the past. So
I think they almost lost like 40% of their. I think it was like 35% of the audience.
Here we go. March 19th. So this was a couple weeks ago. AEW did 932,000 viewers.
Yeah.
And AEW and NXT. I think NXT. That's when they had the Gargano Ciampa story, and they didn't have any matches. Had 542. So AEW had 932,000 viewers. Now 690,000 viewers. Like that's quite a steep drop. But again, this is going to continue, as we move along here, until things kind of get back to normal. Yeah.
Hey, we move right on from. Hey, just look at it. Raw had their worst third hour in history, not including all holiday shows. It was like a 1.6 or something in that third hour. So wrestling right now is taking a hit, and post-Mania, we'll see if we even have wrestling. So, I mean, that's going to be the big story that we'll get into in a couple of minutes. But before we get too crazy, let's just quickly talk about NXT. I thought NXT good show. Not a great show. And one of the major problems, and you're going to tell me that, announcing isn't a major thing, but Sam Roberts is terrible in announcing. But I don't know. I mentioned this at the very beginning. I love all three guys. I love Keith Lee. Dijak is really good. Punishment Martinez has gone better over the years. But, it didn't, without an audience or without Morrow, that match just felt like just big guys just hitting each other and just waiting till somebody, couldn't get to a 10 count,
Yeah, I mean, no audience really hurts a match like that because it's a match that has a lot of spots in it. And, the spots are what the audience is going to react to. And I think the fact that there's not spots really, what it felt like to me? It felt like, I mean, I know this is going to be a weird thing to say and not make sense to people. Okay. It felt more fake to me. It felt more choreographed to me. And I don't know why the lack of audience, I think, was a big factor, but it felt more choreographed to me. I did not feel really like emotionally invested. And I think that's what's happened with these empty arena shows is that emotional investment really, really isn't there for me. And so it's like I'm kind of watching to watch. I think the news and what's going on in the backstage stuff, I think, is really, really been the more interesting part of these last couple of weeks. But I thought the match was fine, but
all three guys worked hard, and it just was, like I said, I don't know, just it was missing something. But something that I thought that did work pretty well was the women's gauntlet match. Besides Aaliyah missing, the kick in the corner by about 3 miles, she is really, really bad. But I thought Shaki Blackheart, I thought they've been really doing a good job. I mean, I'm still not sure if she's really credible with the character she has, which I'm not really sure what that character is. But I thought her and Dakota Kai both looked really good in regards to pushing them past WrestleMania, if we have shows past WrestleMania. Yeah. But they both look good. And in the long run, Dakota Kai was definitely the right person to get that 6th spot due to the fact that she's been doing more for the whole entire year. But I think Blackheart has a future, especially the fact, she eliminated goddamn, what's her name? Our soon to be, Raw Women's Champion.
Baszler.
In the a couple of weeks back, and she didn't give up by submission in their match.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was booked perfectly, and that's NXT, right? No matter what, empty arena shows, goofiness, Corona, whatever, they still have tremendous booking, right? You have Sashi Blackheart, who I really like, and I think has a lot of ability. She really needs to get rid of that green hair, but it helps her stand out fine, whatever. But she's really talented in the ring. They put her over. She beat up all the jobbers. Then she went against Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai had to cheat to win, even though she had wrestled all those other women and was tired. Still had to get help to win the match. Puts Dakota Kai over as a heel even more. Puts Sashi Black. It's just tremendous booking. And I do think, when they come back, that we'll see Blackheart really have a role in the NXT women's division. I think she's going to be, assuming that she stays healthy and her character continues to develop. I think the audience really likes her. I think they like her style and her swagger. I think she's much better for NXT than she is for the main roster because Vince is going to say, "Oh, she's got green hair. What are we going to do with her?" But for NXT, I think she's great. She's a great character. She's wild in the ring. If she doesn't break her fucking neck, I mean, she does some wild shit in the ring. But yeah, I think for NXT, she's great. I see her being a future champion, assuming she stays healthy and everything. I see no reason why she can't be a future women's champion.
I agree. Last thing, and this is for I really thought that they've done a good job with, even though we don't have a takeover, that we know that week by week we have things to look forward to. Next week we've got the women's ladder match, and we also have Gargano versus Ciampa on NXT. Next week, so far we know we have on AEW, we've got Cody versus Spears.
I think that ladder match, by the way, that ladder match is going to be with no crowd there. Oh, God, if those girls miss spots, it's going to be brutal. I think that match could really be rough. It really could be. But because ladder matches are supposed to be there for the fans to react to it. Like, that's a big part of they react to spots. So it's going to be, I think that ladder match is going to be really, really tricky to make it be good. It's going to be really, really tricky, I think.
So what do you think? Is Io Shirai the obvious choice? Is it Candice LeRae?
I mean, listen, that's my choice every time. I mean, seriously, I think she's. I mean, there's not many better professional women wrestlers than her in the world. So I mean, she's my choice every time. I think she probably should have been champion. I think she's better than Rhea Ripley. I think she's better than most of the women on these rosters. So I think she should be champ. I think the audience really likes her. I think, they did the thing that she's a heel, and the audience basically rejected the fact she's a heel and just cheer her anyway. So, I mean, I would give her the spot, and I would have her beat Rhea Ripley. I assume Rhea Ripley is going to win at WrestleMania, but we'll talk about that.
So, but we'll get to that.
And then I'd put the title on Shirai. I know she's Japanese and she can't talk and whatever, but man, she's just the best. And she's charismatic. She has a charismatic style, kind of like Asuka, kind of like Kairi Sane. I think she's on an Asuka level, So that's what I would do. But they could do a Candice LeRae, a feel good story. She's obviously tremendous in the ring, so they could do a feel good story. They could give it to Dakota Kai. I mean, they could go a lot of different directions. I think all the women in there, other than maybe Chelsea Green
and Mia
Yim, have a legitimate chance of winning and would have a case to win the match.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a lot of good stuff. And I guess last thing, what do you think, Gargano or Ciampa? Who finally wins this feud? Because apparently we're going to see an ending, even though we saw this Killer Cross promo last week, which makes you think maybe he interferes because it was a weird placement. But how do you think this ends? Do we get the psychopath, or does the heart of NXT win? Who wins this feud?
Yeah. By the way, can they do some follow-up to Killer Cross? He was there last week, and then this week he's not there. I don't know. I think, first of all, and, we're talking about, we just had the New Jack documentary, Dark Side of the Ring, which I think we're going to talk about later.
Yep.
I would like to see some color in that match. And I'm not a blood guy. I'm not really a blood guy for the most part. Like, I think it's overrated. I think AEW has these pay-per-views where everyone's bleeding on them, whatever. I think we should see some color in this match. I think this match deserves to see some color with what these guys have been through. I don't think we're going to see that. That said, I think Ciampa wins. I guess if you think Cole's going to keep the title, which I don't think Dream's going to win. I thought Dream momentum was building. I think his momentum's kind of stalled a little bit even before the empty arena shows. Mm-hmm. So I see Cole winning, and if Cole wins, you would think it makes sense to have Ciampa go against him again. So, but then where does Gargano go from there? Or maybe you don't really have a winner. I don't know. I think Ciampa's going to win. If I had to pick a winner, gun to head, I know it's a horrible thing to say, but I would go with Ciampa.
You know what? I'm going to say Ciampa wins, and somehow Killer Cross, to make an impact, gets involved. So Ciampa wins. Ciampa winds up goes a little bit separation from the title for a while. He goes up against Lee. Goes for the North American title. And then you have your loser in the match, Gargano, feud with Killer Cross because he somehow got involved. I think that's where you go.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
But we'll talk about this more, next week when we find out where this feud actually developed. But you spoke about it. Let's quickly get into it. I would say that it was not nearly as good as the two-part spectacular about Chris Benoit, but Beyond the Ring was an interesting conversation into the world of extreme wrestling and the extreme character known as New Jack, who just basically. I mean, we've already cursed in this episode, and we have an explicit tag every week, but the fucked up, crazy world of enjoying your character, I guess.
Yeah, no, I did not enjoy it as much. I think I almost wish it would have been like a sit-down interview for an hour. You know what I mean? I feel like we lost something with them talking about the little guy, the little person, highlighting other people. It either the documentary should have been just an hour interviewing New Jack and highlighting like little things here and there, or have it be 2 hours. Because I felt like, and sometimes they do this with the documentary, sometimes they don't. If you're doing like one incident for an hour, I think that's something that you can really, really get into in an hour. One person's whole career, I think that's hard to do. And someone like New Jack, who's had such a long career, I think it's hard to do in an hour. So like next week they're gonna do the brawl for all. I think that could be really, really, because that's one event, right? They could talk about that one event, why it was
one event.
Yeah, they could talk about that one event, like why it was a mess, what happened. But talking about one guy's career, I think it's difficult. So and that's why the Chris Benoit thing was so good, because they touched on Eddie Guerrero in it, but it was really about Benoit and what he did, and it was two parts. So I felt like it was good. It wasn't bad, but I felt like it really could have been a lot better, and I think it should have been given more time. But as far as the quality level and the interviews and things like that, that was good. I just felt like it was really, really like abbreviated. Really,
Now, before watching this, I mean, I'm sure, being a huge wrestling fan that you are, and watching ECW over the years, you had heard of the mass transit incident. But did you know all the stuff that had happened before watching this? Because I mean, I had heard of it, but I had never really. Not that I didn't care, but I had heard that this incident happened with a 17-year-old kid.
I heard he beat the shit out of some 17-year-old kid, and the kid took him to court. Yeah, I definitely remember that. Now, again, this is like the early, I don't even know, the early stages of the internet. What was it, 97?
90,
right?
Late 90s, yeah.
Late 90s. So it was like the early stages of the internet. So it was before things were like too crazy. But I was, I've read up on stuff and whatever. So I definitely heard of the story. But I don't think the internet was what it is now, right? So like I don't think we had the level of information. But yeah, I heard that he beat the shit out of some fat teenager, and that the kid lied about his age and that he'd sued him. But I didn't remember. I never actually saw the incident. I never actually saw what happened. And I didn't really. I knew he didn't go to jail, but I heard he went to trial and whatever. So I did hear about it. In pretty,
basic,
pretty good, pretty good detail. But I didn't see the incident and stuff like that. The Smoky Mountain stuff was interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
and
yeah.
And I would have loved for them to have talked with someone in the WWE, like a Jim Ross at the time, where it's like, hey, did you ever consider this guy, and why didn't you? Because Cornette said why they didn't consider him, and that makes a lot of sense. But it would have been interesting for someone in the WWE to say, hey, like, because he got the little guy a shot. So clearly someone in the WWE knew about him. They knew who he was, and he's tremendous on the mic.
I think
so
that would have been Heyman who we found out, later on, Vince was basically, keeping the company afloat for many years. So I'm guessing that Paul went and said, let's get
Let's get the little guy shot. But I mean, so anyway, but they knew who New Jack was and whatever. So it's just, I would have liked to have heard that part a little bit. The ECW thing they went over so quickly. It was more about like his crazy incidences rather than his career. The thing with his mom and his dad, they barely went over that. It's just they barely went over a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So I guess that was my only thing. Like, I didn't care about that the little guy was in Jerry Springer. Like, I don't care. So, there was some stuff I think I would have liked to have seen done a little differently. But, it was still solid.
Yeah, I mean, I never realized how good of an antagonizer, I guess you could say, because I don't know if I would say that New Jack was a great promo. I mean, some of the stuff that he did we saw with the Smoky Mounds of him inciting these redneck pricks, in Tennessee was very effective. But I didn't realize how, like I said, I don't know if they were great promos, but I never realized how good of a character he was. Because, like I said, the majority of stuff I ever saw with him was just him just having these wild brawls with 14 different versions of the Dudleys. And I mean, I remember seeing, him throwing Vin Grimes, that incident, the first one. I never saw the second one when they were in the other indie where he got his revenge. But, I thought that stuff about Smoky Mounds, and I think Smoky Mound would be actually an interesting documentary. I don't know if they're doing one of them this season or maybe in season 3, because after the ratings of the first episode, definitely think we'll have a third season. But, I do think this is a really good, interesting interview series. I think that we're seeing, especially with, I mean, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Chris Jericho was their narrator for this particular one.
Yeah, and for the last one.
I think that we're going to see a lot of AEW guys are involved with this season. So I mean, I know that neither Cornette or Vince Russo, hopefully, have anything to do with AEW, because we saw them. I don't know if you saw the promo, but they were both in the promo for next week's Brawl for All. So I mean, it'll be interesting where they go with the series going forward. I know they have some interesting stuff coming up, but before we move on quickly, do you remember the Brawl for All at all? No. I don't remember Bart Gunn.
No, I don't. I thought I saw that I think what they were doing, and I was like, this seems stupid. And that might have been the year that I didn't really watch wrestling either. What year was that? 90? Was it 99? 97? 98?
Was it 90? Was it that? I thought it was before that.
Well, I'll have to look it up. That's something we'll talk about. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that next week. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about.
Absolutely. But like I said, it's been an interesting series. Season 1 was good. Season 2 has been picking up. And we'll talk more about that as the weeks go along, because it's been a very interesting conversation piece from the people at Viceland. But Jay, I think the reason why most people are listening to podcasts this week and this time of year is Wrestlemania. Let's talk about right off the bat, what match, if any, is really like the match that, besides the name Wrestlemania, is the one that you're looking forward to most, if there is one?
Orton and Edge. I think that's the match that I think is going to be fun. I think it's the match that plays the best for the empty arena. I think it's the match that has been built up the best. And so that's it. That's the match. And to me, there's not a close second. Like, there's nothing that's close to how they've built it up to. And I know Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre, they've done a nice job, but Drew McIntyre was a heel like 2 weeks ago. So like they've, for what they've built up, it's not even close. So definitely that match. And there's not a close second.
So let's get into that match for a minute here. I agree with you. I think that's the best built match of the show. We discussed a couple of weeks back that, what we thought should main event, the show, even when it was one night. I think now that it's 2 nights, especially the fact that, Roman Reigns is no longer involved on this show, I would have Orton versus Edge, main event night 2. Because I think we kind of know that there's a good chance that the Brock versus Drew McIntyre match, I think, is on night 1, because there's actually a Drew McIntyre 24/7 or one of their specials on the network, I think either directly afterwards or on that day. So I'm guessing if you're doing that, and I think there's actually an Edge documentary following the pay-per-view on that Sunday. So I think that might be telling us what may or may not be on what night. But I think it's been the best built match, and I think it's the most interesting match. Who do you think wins this one?
I mean,
and could you go?
Orton RKO'd the man's wife, right? You got to go with Edge. And in WrestleMania usually goes with the babyface. Babyface usually goes over. So I would say Edge.
I'm leaning to agree with you, but you know what? These, especially with the way that we are right now, with not knowing what's going to happen later on, and hopefully that we'll have live crowd at some point. Do you really want this feud to be over right away after one match? And usually, when the babyface wins, the feud's over, unless Orton just does something so dastardly after this that there's a reason to continue. So I mean, you would think the big comeback he wins, but Orton's been so good as a heel and seems so into this feud. I think there's a chance he can win this match.
So wait a minute. So Orton beats him up, almost ends his career again. Then he ends Matt Hardy's career. Then he RKO's his wife. And Edge, I think, hit him. I don't know. Edge brawled with him a little bit. And then Edge loses the match. I mean, that's a lot of I think that's a lot to come back from. So, I don't see it. I think Edge has got to win the match, because then, okay, you beat me. I want to go against you again. Well, motherfucker, I beat you. I RK'd your wife. I almost ended your career, and now I beat you on the biggest stage. I have nothing to prove.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going with Edge. I was just trying to make the argument why I could see why they could continue to the fact that Orton has been so good on the promo and seems like he's motivated. I can see how that could be something we could care about. Another match that has been booked well, McIntyre and Lesnar. I would think that you got to go with Drew McIntyre. I mean, I
agree.
I know you want to do it in front. All these matches, of course, you want to do it with a live crowd, especially a huge title change, and finally anointing this guy the guy. But it's Drew McIntyre's time. If you're ever going to give this guy a chance, he's at least, even before we lost the crowds, he seemed to be getting a little bit over. I think the crowd kind of into the 1, 2, 3 thing. I think you got to give the title.
I mean, I don't want to go too quick, but we do have to go a little quicker. But I agree. I think I see there's no way McIntyre should not win this. There's no way. I think McIntyre has the momentum. I think the crowd's getting behind him, as you said, and this is the time. If not now, when?
I agree. Like I said, the match that we don't exactly know what it is yet is Cena and The Fiend. I don't even know what to expect. If their match, 6 years ago was fine. I rewatched that when it was on ESPN. I was in the room when that was on. I mean, I think it was a great match, but I did think it was, good. So, with more plunder, I guess, or whatever they're going to do, I guess, it should be fine. And if any time Cena should lose, it should be this year, because if you have Bray basically win the title, lose clean to Goldberg, and then lose to Cena, then what's the point of having this guy's character at this point? So I think he has to win.
Yeah, I mean, he has to win. I mean, some of these to me are like, you can make the Orton and I think on WrestleMania, this is supposed to be the culmination of feuds, right? This is supposed to be like the culmination of the crescendo of them. Mm-hmm. You can't have a part-timer beat a full-timer who they gave him the title. He was a big deal. He's still a big deal on SmackDown. Cena's going to be gone after this. You cannot, and we've said this in the past, and they still do it anyway, so I don't fucking know. But there's no way you could have, a part-time wrestler, John Cena, not even part-time. Now he's a WrestleMania wrestler. There's no way you can have, and I think it's different than we're going to talk about AJ and Undertaker. I think it's a little bit different scenario, because Undertaker's at least around a little bit, where Cena's not going to be around. I mean, who knows now with Hollywood not making movies, he might need something to do too.
He could be.
So, yeah. So, I mean, but then when things come back, he's going to be gone again. I don't know. I think you have to have Wyatt win the match. I think he has to win the match. They've done these, stop and start pushes with him over the years. When he lost that match to Orton, the title match, and a horrible match, and he should have won that match. These stop and start pushes with Wyatt, they have to go all the way with him. And they've started to do that. They had him lose to Goldberg for God knows what reason. This is the time to give him that push. Have him avenge that loss.
I agree totally. I mean, I don't know if we'll actually disagree on any of these matches. I think a lot of these feel kind of obvious, but
yes.
Let's go the graveyard match. I'm sorry, boneyard match. AJ Styles, Alan Jones, as I guess we're now going to call him, versus Mark Calloway. We all know that Undertaker doesn't lose unless it's putting over someone who's going to be the new face of the company. And AJ's not the new face of the company. He's not named Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar. So do you think we at least get a decent – do you think AJ can at least put in a decent match with him with all the tricks of the trade, I guess, being in a graveyard, I guess? Or do you think this match is a disaster no matter what?
Probably not great. Probably not great. Because it's not a wrestling match. But maybe this actually suits The Undertaker. They'll beat the hell out of each other in a graveyard. And WWE does funny things with special effects, and sometimes it's clever. I know a lot of people years ago didn't like the weird match with Wyatt and Orton. I don't know if it was even a match when he went to his house and whatever. I thought it was weird, but I kind of enjoyed it. So
well, maybe that part was interesting. Then when they came back to the ring and there was bugs on this,
yeah,
that was just like, all right.
It got a little goofy. Is this going to get a little goofy? Absolutely. Is Undertaker going to win? Absolutely. Is this going to hurt AJ Styles? Absolutely not.
Well, unless Michelle McCool hits the flash out at the match.
That would hurt AJ a little bit.
Because, apparently that's why he's really upset, because she made the move more important than he did or something. Whatever the hell fucking Undertaker was saying in that promo yesterday.
These promos, man. All right.
Stick to being the American badass, or the Undertaker, whatever the hell you are at this point. Last thing on that match, do you think we see Kane?
No, I don't know. I don't care. That I don't. I could care less. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Isn't he a mayor and they've got Corona? I don't know. Not that far of a drive, but I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't mean to poo-poo you. I really could give a shit if he shows up or not. He's the mayor of Tennessee. He's a mayor of a town in Tennessee.
Yeah. No, because he said something in the promo about your three guys and I'll have three or something. So I thought he said something like that. So I'm guessing is a possibility. But moving on, let's get into one of these women's matches. We've got the 5-way elimination match for the SmackDown title, which it should just be a one-on-one match. I know you don't watch SmackDown that often nowadays, but
I've been watching every week. We've
got Lacey Evans versus Sasha Banks versus Naomi versus Tamina versus Bayley, the champion.
Let's get everybody on the card.
Yeah.
Troy the dog, does he have a match on the card? Let's get everybody on the card. Why is Tamina in there?
You know what? I agree with you, but Tamina was actually the best part of that segment on SmackDown.
Oh, I like Bayley. I think she's actually been kind of funny as a heel since doing these empty arena matches, these empty arena shows. I think she's been funny.
She's fine. All right, but let's be honest here. This match should have just been Bayley versus Sasha, because the two of the 5 or 6 best female workers in the company, or even in the business. If you want to take Tessa Blanchard out of the equation,
yeah.
The 2 of the best women. It's not that hard of a story. The idea is something happened. There's a jealousy angle, or just the fact that Paige went and said, "You're facing her. Deal with it." But you got all these other women in it. Realistically, I don't know if it's time to take the title off of Bayley, but I mean, can you see anybody else besides Sasha Banks?
I don't think any of these women have built themselves up. All we know about Lacey Evans, she has a daughter and was a former Marine, but she still does the same Southern gimmick. So she's from the South, but she's the proper lady gimmick. So she's got that. She just has a kid and was a former Marine, which is great. But I don't know.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. So they haven't built her up. Tamina, I didn't
know she was
I didn't know she still was a performer. And Naomi, they haven't built up. I think Naomi would be a sneaky pick, but I mean, do you give the title to Sasha or do you keep it on Bailey? I mean, I think the idea is that they're gonna have some Bailey Sasha feud after this. That's what you would assume. Those are the only two women who, to be honest with you, this is gonna sound really wrong because I like Naomi and I like some of the other women, but they're really the only two women who matter in the SmackDown women's division. I mean, it's a very, very, very top loaded division. So
maybe in another year, Lacey Evans will be better. She's not bad on the mic. She's still not great on the
Corey, think about the NXT women's division and the NXT ladder match.
Yeah.
Right? Think about that match. And then think about this 5-way. Like, it is not even close in terms other, Bayley and Sasha, obviously we know they're top stars. I mean, it's the women's division NXT is just so much better.
And the best one's not even in the, possibly the best one's not even in the match. And, Bianca Belair, which hopefully she's coming up after, coming up to SmackDown after, and that's why she, who knows? I mean,
they should have put Sasha Blackheart in this match. Put an NXT star in there. I don't know.
So what do you think?
Tamina? I don't know. Shit, let's go with Bailey. I don't know.
This is the first one we'll disagree. I'm going to say Sasha wins the title. But,
all right, fair enough.
Who knows at this point? Let's go with the Raw Tag Team title match. Why not? Fill-in galore here. Angel Garza and Austin Theory, who apparently are bestie friends, versus the Street Profits. I don't think it's time to take the titles off the Street Profits. But
I don't think this is even close. I mean, Austin Theory he just got there a week ago. He's filling in for Andrade. I think no one Street Profits lose this match, in my opinion. But I think if an Andrade was there, I think there is a chance they would lose the match. Now there's no way. But I do like the fact they're doing this thing kind of like Selena has a stable, and you know what I mean. I'm enjoying this kind of stable thing she's got going on, and she's bringing people in, and she's like, I'm an influencer, and blah blah blah. I feel like they should give her stable like a nickname. The Dangerous Alliance. I mean, obviously not Dangerous Alliance, but I feel like they should give it some type of nickname. To be honest with you, Well, yeah, I think it'll be a fun match. I think Austin Theory is tremendous, and so is Garza. So I think it'll be and the Profits are Dawkins. He's not my favorite, but Montez Ford is great. So I think it'll be a fun match. But I don't see how the Street Profits lose. I think who knows? But I think there's no way.
I'll agree with you. I'll go with the Street Profits as well. I think it could be one of those matches that by the end of one of these two nights we go, wow, that was one of the best matches on the card. I mean,
depending if they give it time. If they give it time, I think it'll be one of the better wrestling matches on the show.
We've got Intercontinental match, also a SmackDown match. Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn. El Generico versus Bryan Danielson, a match from Ring of Honor, which back in the day these two would work amazing matches. I mean, they're both 10 years older, but they both work really well. Sammy, I think, should keep the title because I think Daniel Bryan doesn't need a title.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%. I think it's a feud that they can continue, though, if Sami Zayn wins, which I think he should.
I mean, I agree with you. I think Sammy deserves the victory. I mean, not deserves a weird word there, and I think Daniel Bryan should go and focus with whatever time he's left on this contract with the tag team. I think him and Gulak could actually be pretty interesting in that tag team division. I think that could be pretty fun.
And I think Bryan can do whatever he wants at this point. I mean, Drew Gulak being there is from him. So Bryan is pretty cool. He's got a lot of say over his character and what he wants to do and stuff like that. So I see him definitely putting Sami Zayn over.
All right, let's get rid of a couple of matches that nobody cares about. We'll quickly, very, very fast. Kabuki Warriors versus the former champions, Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss. I like all four of them as individuals, but this thing's been super rushed, and I don't see why you would take the titles off the Kabuki Warriors. It's just the fact that they work really hard, and they, unlike Alexa Bliss, you could have great matches with them on all three brands. So I would keep it on the Kabuki Warriors.
Crisscross applesauce changing the titles at WrestleMania. Next match.
Wow. All right, another match nobody should care about. Gronkowski decided that he wanted to make a match, so we've got Elias versus King Corbin. You know what? I don't care. You tell me who's winning this match, and I'll go with whoever you say.
Elias.
You mean he's still alive from that fall?
He's gotta avenge the fall that broke his back or whatever, and he's wrestling a week later.
A match that I'm actually excited for, but I know you mostly don't care much for, is Otis versus Dolph Ziggler, because I've loved the story they've told with Otis.
I mean, the story they told is great. Is Otis any good in the ring?
I think he's actually been quite good in the limited.
So he does the worm move, and you're gonna be excited to watch him wrestle in a singles match on WrestleMania. Come on, Corey.
Ziggler can make me he can't make me look good because I can barely walk 2 steps out. But I think he could make you. Dolph Ziggler can make you look good, and I think Dolph Ziggler knows his job in this match. He's there to make Otis look like a star, and I think that there's enough there that I think Otis and Dolph can go to get 8 minutes, and I think they could be entertaining.
Yeah, I think it'll be entertaining. I don't think it'll be a good match. Those two aren't necessarily the same thing. I think Otis wins.
Okay, and the last match, I'm thinking of the matches that are left that nobody should care about. Like both guys, but Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley. Aleister, I would guess, has to win this because he's everybody.
Aleister Black for the victory.
Hopefully, Bobby Lashley gets better things to do as time goes along and Lana goes away.
No, she can stay. I'm fine with her staying. She can stay.
Let's just have her go back with Rusev.
We don't need her having multiple segments on Raw. One segment's fine.
All right, a couple of matches left, guys. Let's see. We've got the ladder match for the SmackDown titles, which at this point I still have no idea what it's going to be. Slight spoiler here: The Miz will not be wrestling this match. So
yeah, I think the whole idea of spoilers. I mean, people know what's going on now. No one has anything else to focus on. So Miz is not in the match. We don't know who the other person is, right? Are they still having? Or they might not have the match.
I think they had the match, but it's going to be somebody from the New Day versus somebody in the Usos versus John Morrison. I guess I'm guessing in a 3-way ladder match.
Oh, that actually should be fun.
I mean, I'm hoping it's Kofi and either Jimmy or Jey Uso, either one, I guess, and that should be a fun match. And do you take the title off the dirt sheet as a punishment almost for what happened here?
No, that'd be so stupid. No. I think Dirt Sheet wins. I don't really care who wins, to be honest with you, but I think Miz and Morrison keep the titles.
I'd agree with that. So let's get back to the last couple matches that people would care about. We're going to save the match that's the most interesting, I guess, to say for last here, but we got our 2 remaining women's matches. We've got Rhea Ripley facing Charlotte in the passing of the torch, I would guess, for a credibility match for the NXT title. I don't see how you have Charlotte win this match. I mean, does it bring more credibility to NXT to have Charlotte there for a couple of months or something and being the woman to build the brand around? Sure, and her versus Io Shirai would be, fantastic and amazing, but I just don't see how you do everything with Rhea Ripley, beating, Shayna and all the other stuff, making her look so strong and having her lose, basically her first title defense.
Yeah, because, if Charlotte loses, it doesn't hurt her. First of all, she never loses. And so if you have her lose, she's the Roman Reigns of the women's division. If you have her lose, it doesn't hurt her at all. She can still claim she's the best. She's a 10-time champion. And if Rhea Ripley wins, it makes her look so good. And it makes NXT's women division look really good too. So I really think the easy answer is to give Rhea Ripley the win. That being said, Vince loves himself some Charlotte Flair, but it is a blonde against a blonde, so he might not know what to do. But I do think Rhea Ripley wins the match. That's the right booking. But
I agree.
Again, Vince doesn't always do that. So you should have had Asuka win at WrestleMania against Charlotte. Whatever.
Yeah. All right. Our other women's match, the face of the company, at least on the women's side, and do you realize that she will have been champion for an entire year? You've got Becky Lynch defending the Raw Women's title again.
Of course. Who would have beat her on Raw? I don't even know who the women on Raw are. Sarah Logan? Who's the blonde? Liv Morgan? Lana?
Well, Charlotte was down there for the first half of the year, so I mean,
yeah, but other than her,
Asuka. Yeah, the Oscar. But but you realize she's kept the title from Mania to Mania, which is doesn't happen very often in this.
I mean, Bailey's had the title for a long time too in the SmackDown Women's division.
Yeah, I think she's had it since Money in the Bank when she beat Charlotte.
Yeah, so she's had it almost a year too. So interesting.
A good amount of time here, but we've got her versus the former NXT champion, Shayna Baszler, who I think they've built quite well. I know you didn't love what they did in Elimination Chamber with her, but I think this is the perfect time for a title change. I'm not sure with the current climate if they go with it, especially we think there will be a couple of title changes already. What do you think? I'm gonna go with Shayna, but I could definitely see Becky keeping it for a while longer. But
man, the way they've built it is that Shayna's gonna win. That's the way that they've built it, right? That's what makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of this comes down to supposedly Vince doesn't like Shayna as much as he's soured on her. Again, I don't know if that's true or not. I think that could play something into this. But I think the way they're building it is to have Shayna win. Becky Lynch needs somebody to go against, right? And I think the Asuka thing, I thought the Asuka thing was built up brilliantly, and they had a really good match. And I think this has been built up fine. I think you almost have to have Baszler win, right? Because Becky Lynch has to have something to do. She's beating everybody. So that's the way I would do it. I'd have Baszler win and have something for Becky Lynch to chase.
Yeah, I mean,
it won't hurt her. She's had the title forever. She won in the first main event of WrestleMania. She's so I think she could stand a loss.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I mean, the only way I see her keeping the title is if on the next night, for the one show they still have left that they've taped, Bianca Belair comes out on Raw the next night and sets up the next person. So I mean, besides that, I think it's time for Becky to lose and she rematches. So we've got one match left. It was originally Roman Reigns versus everybody's favorite ex-football player from WCW. What's his name? Oh, Bill Goldberg. It no longer is. Now it's Goldberg versus Strowman, and somehow they're going to set this up tomorrow night on SmackDown. Do you still go with the title change, or do you wait for Roman to come back?
Oh, you got to wait for him to come back. You give the title to Strowman? Yeah. I definitely think you have Goldberg winning, and you have Goldberg losing the next show, because I think Goldberg would wrestle in this match, and then he'd wrestle in whatever their next show would be anyway, I would think. I don't think he'd lose and then be gone. You know what I'm saying? But, because we know he'll be back whenever they go to Saudi Arabia again. So we know he's not retired anymore. But I would think he would win this. He would have, if it was Roman, he would have lost the match and then maybe got another rematch. In this case, I just don't think you can have Strowman win. Now, one thing I want to talk about quick, because we are running out of time. Triple H did have a really...
Strowman wins. I'm going to say we get a title change.
You say we get a title change? Okay, interesting. One thing I think that was interesting beyond this match, because to be honest with you, I don't really care. It's not going to be a good match. And I think no matter what you can say, this is the strongest I feel about this match. No matter who wins, they won't have the title for long.
Agreed.
No matter who wins. So I think that's why, I don't really care. It's like the whole old school transitional champion thing, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, whoever wins this match won't have it for long. I think the interesting thing, more so than anything, is Triple H's interview with Ariel Helwani. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, kind of doing this media blitz, where he said that essentially with Roman Reigns announcing that he's not going to, be on the show. And Triple H said, listen, we can't go by what Roman Reigns said on the internet. The internet is the internet, but we're running a show. We're running a television show. So we can't just react to the internet stuff. We are going to have this play out in a certain way to make Strowman look like the challenger, and that's how we have to have it go by. What they do, I think, is interesting. It's definitely, I think, a good hook to watch SmackDown tomorrow for sure. Plus, we'll have literally nothing else to do. So I think it'll be an interesting hook to watch SmackDown and how they make Strowman the challenger. But quickly, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's why I think Strowman wins the title, because I think Strowman takes out Reigns, where saying that our feud was never actually finished. Strowman wins the title, and then you build Roman's comeback that he wins the title, as SummerSlam or something to get his revenge. And I think Strowman can, if you have Strowman be the beast that he was, who was, flinging cars, and cause I really think that the best matches Strowman ever had, and some of the best matches Reigns ever had, was that like 2 years ago when they were just killing each other in all these like specialty matches. I thought the two of them were on fire. I thought that year it was one of the best feuds of the year, because they just didn't give a shit. They just went every pay-per-view. They just threw stuff at each other, and that's when Strowman looked like a monster, and that's when most people, including myself, thought this guy could be something. We should put the title on him. Now, I mean, he's been devalued over the years. Now he's a kind of a comedy guy, but if you make him a heel, he takes out Roman and he beats he beats Goldberg. I think that could work.
Yeah, all right. You've changed my mind. We'll go with Strowman. I think that's interesting. I think it's an interesting thing. I think, my opinion, if what kind of Triple H is saying is right, and this is going to play out in a certain way, I think that you're probably right about Strowman. I think SmackDown, which I think I'm going to try to live tweet. I think I'm going to try to live tweet at least one of the nights of WrestleMania. We'll see, because we'll see. Yeah, no promises here. Actually, I take that back. I am definitely not retweeting SmackDown. Having a date with my wife. We were supposed to go to Italy tomorrow, but obviously can't with Corona. So we're gonna have an Italian night at home. So so I'm definitely not live tweeting SmackDown, but definitely at least one night of WrestleMania. So we'll see how that goes. Both the date and the Strowman stuff.
Well, I hope your date doesn't end in a brawl for all. But sorry, bad joke. But you know what? I think we covered a lot of great stuff this week. Jason, hope you enjoy Mania. I'm gonna hope to enjoy, because we'll be on TV. Check out the work.
Let me ask you one more question before we go.
Sorry.
And I just came up with this. You know how you come up with questions randomly. How much would you pay for this show? Let's say they had time and they built it up, and let's just say the audience was there and no Corona, whatever. This would basically be the show, the card, right? With the exception of Roman Reigns and the tag match would be. So let's say, with a couple of exceptions, this would be the card. How much would you pay for this show? And let's say it was $60 for both nights total. How much would you pay for this show? What's this show worth to you?
30, maybe half.
Yeah.
Because like I said, there's a couple of things on the show that are really interesting to me. There's a lot of it feels like fluff. I mean,
a lot of it feels like fluff. And I think that's the issue. I mean, we named 5 or 6 matches that just don't mean anything. And because of now it's 2 nights. But if this all would have been on one night, they wouldn't have been able to give these matches time. So it would have been matches that nobody cares about, that is not given time. And it wouldn't have been 2 nights if not for the coronavirus. So, I don't know. I don't think this card would be worth much. Maybe $20, $30, maybe, but no more than $30 for sure.
Let's be, as we get out of here, let's be honest. If Corona never happened and everything was better in the world, we would have been talking about NXT TakeOver a lot more glowingly, as the main topic, and been like, yeah, WrestleMania looks great. Let's talk about Ciampa, Gargano, on how awesome that's going to be, in front of a great crowd in Tampa.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's not even close. You would have had the woman ladder match. You would have had the North American title match. It would have been, and that's the bummer, right? That's a stacked fucking card.
Absolutely.
Ciampa is the main event. Adam Cole against Dream for the title. The women's ladder match. The North American. I mean, that's probably, I don't know, one of the most stacked takeovers they've maybe ever had.
We say that almost every time there's a takeover. It's the most. Yeah. Takeover.
I mean, I would, but I think even more, it's like a stacked card. Like, it's a really top heavy card because you have very interesting matches. It would have been a really, really good takeover.
Yeah, we might have gone Walter versus Finn Balor. So who knows? And that might have been on that show too. But you know what? We spoke about a lot of great things. Like I said before, Jason, enjoy your WrestleMania weekend. I will enjoy it as well. But Jay, how about you let people know quickly about how they can follow you, the show, on Twitter, and me, I guess.
Sure. I'm at Worked Shoot Pod. We are at Worked Shoot Pod. We put some articles up sometimes. We'll retweet stuff. We put up stuff about the show. So please follow us on social media. We did get a couple followers last week, so thank you for everyone who's following us. We are on Facebook too, the Work Shoot Podcast, I think, on Facebook.
Yeah, we got.
I think I'm going to spend some time this weekend maybe working on some of our social media stuff. So that's where you can find us. Look us up on Stitcher, Worked Shoot Podcast, right? Worked Shoot Podcast on Stitcher. Corey has put all of our old library, so if you want to hear any of our old shit, you certainly can. But just type in Worked Shoot Podcast and look us up. Thanks.
Very cool. And of course, check out every week You Don't Know Jackie podcast. And also, friend of the show, Christopher Morin, has started his own podcast, The Red Zone, talking MMA, wrestling, sports, comedy, a whole bunch of stuff. Give him a chance. The Red Zone, also on Anchor FM, and check him on iTunes and everywhere else where podcasts are. But Jason, it's been one hell of a ride, 2 shows in 1 week. You enjoy that Italian dinner, and I'm going to go make a can of tuna because I'm quarantined.
I think we're done here. See ya.
Too sweet.